What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Real Talks with Jakub, where I interview doers, achievers, and go-getters and how they created their own luck and became successful. And today we are here with Elliott. Kyle is a successful career coach and professional speaker who helps top talents from Silicon Valley feel fulfilled in their jobs. The most common phrase he hears from his clients is, "I'm stuck." And that's exactly where he steps in. His unique and results-driven approach has already helped thousands of clients from top C-level positions to entrepreneurs or other high achievers. And Kyle's been featured by huge brands and media houses such as Forbes, Fox, CNBC, or Fast Company. And in this episode, we'll talk about how you can find the job you will love and also how to find the courage to be yourself when it comes to your professional life. Welcome to the show, Kyle.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Thank you very much for coming, Kyle. I'm really excited to have this conversation. So, Kyle, you are a young guy. Tell me, how did this all success happen? When did it all start?
Yes, that's one of my favorite questions. And for me, it was completely by accident. A lot of people go into career coaching, resume writing, counseling, with the intention of wanting to help people find jobs they love. And I do love helping people find jobs they love, especially in Silicon Valley and in tech. But for me, it was a complete accident. I was in college and I really just needed money to fund my coffee addiction. I love coffee. And we had a Subway on campus. I always tell people that had amazing pizza. It was super delicious. And you wouldn't think a Subway sandwiches would have great pizza, but it did. So I needed a way to fund this pizza and coffee addiction. So I was like, okay, what's a way I could make some decent money? And I had always been working since a young age. I was a decent writer. I loved giving people unsolicited advice. So I found Fiverr, and it's this platform where you can charge $5 to do a gig. They take their cut of it. So you get like $4, $3.75 once you do the gig. And I went on there and I found I could do resume reviews. I could write LinkedIn summaries. I could give people feedback on their college essays. So I started doing that and I was excited because if I could do 4 an hour, I could make 16 to 20 bucks an hour. So it was exciting. And that helped through college. I would do that when working the front desk in our dorms. Went to grad school, raised my rates to maybe 25 bucks a review. And then when I finished grad school, I was going to go work in marketing and fundraising for nonprofits. And then what happened was my business just kept growing and growing. And almost 3 years ago, I made the leap to doing this full time. And I've now been doing it full time for almost 3 years. Wow. So what started as this side hustle to just fuel Starbucks and Subway pizza turned into this business where I help some of Silicon Valley's most prominent executives find jobs, love their jobs, stay in their jobs, and really just find happiness. Because that's what I truly love is this isn't just here's a piece of paper. Yes. Go find a job, but really that ripple effect. It's helping people pay for their kids' colleges. It's my clients working at companies like Facebook and LinkedIn that's used by billions, or it's just them finding career satisfaction and happiness in life.
I checked your website and you actually raised your prices from $5.
Yeah, I've just steadily increased it. And really that was the advice of my dad. He said, how about you just double your rates? And I did that. When it was $5, it's easy to double it to 10 and then 20 and 40. When you get higher, it's scarier to double those rates. But I just kept doing it because I would think, okay, what advice would I give my clients? And one of my favorite question to ask clients is, if fear didn't exist and rejection wasn't possible, what would you do? And that's what I would do. I would encourage them to double their rates, to ask for more money.
Just like this, just double it and just do it. Double their income.
Exactly. And that's the thing. And my dad would say, you know what, Kyle, let's say you double your rates and you lose half your clients. Half the people say no to working with you. You're still making the same amount of money in half the time. And then use that other half of your time to find more clients. So I was like, that's actually some really good advice, Dad. I like that. So he's been super helpful giving some non-traditional advice that's worked out well.
Yeah, and I mean, when you double your prices or just in general raise your prices, it usually filters out these like tire kickers, right? And you will start working with more prominent clients who maybe value your advice more, right?
Precisely. And really people who are ready for that change and committed. Yes. And people have to think, yes, my prices are on the higher end, but when you think about Silicon Valley, my clients are making anywhere from $150,000 to multi-million dollars. So it's really a small drop in the bucket when you think about how much they're making. and the revenue they're overseeing, the budgets
Yes.
they're managing, and really how much is your happiness worth? I think that's the ultimate question to ask yourself.
So why Silicon Valley executives?
That was 100% by accident as well, similar to my business. I mean, we were chatting earlier, I'm located right outside San Francisco.
Yes.
So I think part of it was just the geographic region. I was helping people in my college, San Francisco State University, who wanted to work at Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Google, all these big companies. And then number two was most of my business is by referral. So it would help a handful of these people get jobs, these big tech companies, and then they would refer people. So my business just naturally grew in Silicon Valley. And then over time I said, you know what, let me specialize, just like I would encourage my clients. The riches are in the niches. I became more and more niche over time and focused more on Silicon Valley because what I love about it is you have to be competitive and you have to say, here's what sets me apart. Okay, Google, they get, let's say 10,000 applicants for a single product manager job. What sets you apart from all those other product managers? And that's what I love, is helping people identify, own, and market what's fabulous and unique about themselves. And that happens in other markets, but it's especially critical to be able to market yourself and what sets you apart in Silicon Valley, or I call it Silicon Valley-esque markets. So Seattle, Austin, New York, these places that are super competitive job markets.
You said, what makes you fabulous? You like that word, don't you?
I do. I think it's fun and different. And I worked with a coach and he said, you know what, you want people to be in the hell yes or hell no camp.
Oh, yes.
So when people come to my website or they work with me, I don't want them to say, well, I feel about Kyle, or I feel about the client. I want them to say, hell yes, Kyle's my coach or my person, or hell no, he's not. And I think fabulous does that. Either you want to come work with me, I'm fabulous, you're fabulous, we're going to show how fabulous you are, or you're not ready for that. I want you to be a hell no and go find another coach that doesn't think you're fabulous, doesn't think they're fabulous, doesn't like marketing fabulousness.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? There's nothing worse than being in the middle as a marketer or service provider. There's always good to be a little controversial, right?
Exactly. And I like polarizing people, and I don't think that's always a bad thing. I think it's important to do that sometimes and recognize that middle ground, especially in Silicon Valley, is not a good place to be. You want to be in the hell yes or hell no pile when you send your resume off, or when a recruiter sees your LinkedIn profile, or when they interview you. People in the middle don't get hired. They don't get jobs.
Love it. So let's expand on this a little bit. So are you actually helping your clients to be polarizing when it comes to CV and when it comes to applying to the jobs?
Yes, absolutely. And obviously my goal is for them to be polarizing on this end, or I guess if you're watching this backwards, on this end, but I want them to be in that hell yes pile. And sometimes that results in them being in the hell no pile, because they're like, you know what, we're looking for A, B, C, and you don't have that because you're like, oh my God, amazing A, B, but missing C. But most often I want my clients to say, I have A, B, C that you're looking for. And then also here's D, E, F I have. And here's how I'm way different than every other client. That's my goal. Because I want a recruiter or a hiring manager to immediately see your resume, your LinkedIn profile, or to interview you or be networking with you and say, oh my gosh, I need to hire you. No one else has to offer what you have to offer. And that's what I mean by polarizing. Someone saying, oh my gosh, no one else has to offer what you have to offer. Or you approach this work in a way that no one else approaches it. And that approach is worth us hiring you over all these other 10,000 applicants.
Okay, so Kyle, let's start from the very beginning. Let's start from the moment when you hear "I'm stuck" for the first time. What do you do then when some of these high-level executives or people who want to change their career, they are not fulfilled, and they come to Kyle and say, "Hey, Kyle, let's meet in Disneyland. I'm stuck." And how do you help them?
Most often when people come to me, they're looking for answers and they think they need answers, but really what they need is really good questions. And I think someone who's a novice at this is going to jump into giving advice. Here's what you should do. Here's your plan. A, B, C is what you need to do. Here's the steps. And instead, what a good coach is going to do is ask questions. When did you find you were first stuck? What's keeping you stuck? What will help you get unstuck? What will it look like once you're unstuck? What would that mean to you? So really diving into what has someone stuck, what's keeping them stuck, and diving in and asking people those questions. And I find some of the best questions are those questions that I don't know the answer to. And perhaps my client doesn't know the answer to, and us together discovering the answer
Yes.
to those questions. And we may not have those answers during that initial consult. Clients will come to me, we'll have a consult, and they're like, Kyle, I'm leaving with more questions than answers. This is good. And it's a little frustrating, but it's good because then we know what our goals are and what we need to work toward. And especially with executives, they recognize that as it can be a difficult place, but it's also an important place to recognize what are the questions we need to answer.
You're saying that people sometimes don't know the answers, but at the same time, that's your only one rule, that I don't know is not the acceptable answer.
Correct. So for that, something they can reply to is because clients say, okay, right now I want to say I don't know, but I'm not allowed to. So let me noodle on that. And then we'll figure out, okay, where does this answer reside? What will it take me to find this answer? What knowledge am I missing to find this answer? And then together we explore that. So oftentimes our gut instinct is to say, I don't know, and then have someone else figure it out, or just ignore the problem. And that works outside of coaching. But when you're in the coaching room, it doesn't get us anywhere. So it's really fun when clients say, I don't know. And then they say, oh, nope, sorry, Kyle, I didn't mean that. And then they noodle on it and say, okay, I don't know, but how can I find this out? And they dig really deep. And it's so much fun to see clients dig deep once they get past that limiting belief that they don't know, and start finding the answers.
It reminded me a story with my coach. He hates when somebody says try. You either do it or you don't. And when I was speaking to him, I said, all right, I'm going to try to set it up. I'm going to set it up. So I think that's a similar situation like with I don't know, right?
Yes, that accountability is so important.
Yes.
I love that.
So Kyle, how long does this process usually take before you send out that first CV? How long do you chat with your clients and asking these difficult questions?
Yeah, so my process is unique from a lot of coaches. I don't do worksheets or questionnaires. Some people love them and it works for them. For me, a lot of my clients are busy, and just how I like doing the process is not doing that intake form. How I work is I like setting up an hour. I call it an interrogation, but it's really nice where we spend an hour with me just asking questions and getting to know them. And over the next 3 or so weeks, I write their resume. I like having time to noodle on it, to think, just really biting away at the resume. And then we have a second call where we say, okay, now that you have this resume, this cover letter, we're going to work on your LinkedIn. What do we do with these materials? How do you job search? I don't want you to just have a resume and say, okay, bye, good luck, which a lot of resume writers or coaches do. We say, okay, where are you going to apply? How are you going to job search? How are you going to network? And I think that sets me apart. So it's usually about 3 weeks from the first coaching call to the second. I do 2. And then throughout the process, I'm there for my clients. I help them job search if they have questions. If a recruiter ghosts them, we are there. I'm there for them. Really, anything that comes up. So it's usually about 3 weeks. And then most clients, I say they land a job within a couple of months. And I feel like that's ambiguous enough to take into account. To some people, take longer than a few months. And I've had clients, they send their resume on a Monday and they have a job offer on Friday. So it really just varies a lot.
So most of career coaches just finish the resume writing and that's it?
I find it depends on who you work with. Some of the more experienced people or executive resume writers, they're going to help you with coaching and strategy like I do. And then oftentimes the lower priced people or the less experienced people or those resume mills like Top Resume, they're just going to kind of write your resume. Some of them will never have a phone call with you and just say, okay, here's a resume that's more cookie cutter. And that works for some people. Some people, it's just kind of like supercuts and getting a haircut. Some people just need kind of like pointing out a picture and saying, I want that exact haircut. And some people want something more custom and bespoke. So if you want cookie cutter, those can work for you. But if you want something more custom and bespoke, typically that's what my clients need because they're navigating Silicon Valley. They have complex careers. That's what I do, is really that customized approach.
I mean, especially when you're applying to a position where other than 1,000 people are applying to, I mean, you need to have your social media on point. Like it needs to be completely set up, right? You don't want pictures of your cats there if you're applying.
Exactly.
Okay. So when it comes to like social media optimization, do you do only LinkedIn or do you help with other profiles as well, such as Instagram? Because I know that a lot of recruiters, including me, when I was hiring some people to my team, I look on Instagram too.
Yeah, so most of my clients, I'm focusing on their LinkedIn, but what was really interesting, I had a client reach out to recruiters on Instagram and send them messages. And she like actually got informational interviews and ended up getting hired at a tech company because she
Hmm.
reached out to recruiters on Instagram and said, hey, she didn't say, hey, are you hiring me? Here's my resume, but instead
Okay.
say, hey, I see you work at X company. I'm really interested in the work you do. She was also a recruiter and she said, hey, I would love to share best practices. And she was able to set up informational interviews and ended up getting hiring. So most of my clients, LinkedIn is going to be ideal for them. I prefer quality over quantity, focusing on one or two platforms. But for other people, like her, Instagram worked well. She showed up professionally on there and
Hmm.
really was polished, and it worked well for her.
I see. Have you ever heard feedback or got the feedback from one of these recruiters from Facebook, from Google, commenting on the CV you prepared?
Oh yes, a lot. I usually don't get the feedback, but my clients do,
Yes,
and
yes.
they often will share, "Oh my God, this is exactly what I'm looking for. You hit every
Uh-huh.
single nail on the head." I have folders here. I hate wasting paper, but I literally print out the job postings that my clients are targeting. Let me find one.
Okay.
Um,
I think it's a lot about the research up front, about the position and about the person who will be reading these CVs, right?
yes. So I literally, I don't want to like show the name, so I'm trying to like hide it. Benny Home, in here, I'm gonna like kind of show it. There's
Yes.
the job postings my clients are targeting. And what I do is I literally print out the job posting and then I go through with the highlighter and I highlight the items as I included on their resume. So if
Mm-hmm.
the job posting is saying, okay, we're looking for someone with an MBA, we're looking for someone with 10 years of experience, we're looking for someone who's done program management, we're looking for someone in the B2B space, every single one of those items is going to be on my client's resume. So that
Mm-hmm.
when then the recruiter receives it, they say, oh my God, we have this laundry list of things we're looking for, and your client
Okay.
has it. And then the fabulous part kicks in where I add the sprinkles and say, here's what sets them apart from everyone else. And then here's some whipped cream. Here's what else sets them apart
Uh-huh.
from everyone else. So I
Sprinkles.
think that's what really sets my clients apart
Uh-huh.
is really making sure we're hitting everything on the job posting and then taking it to the next step and saying, here's how I do it differently, or here's what's unique about me.
So you actually create a CV specifically tailored made for a specific position.
Usually a handful, because I don't want it to be so specific. If they don't get that job, they're
Okay.
screwed. But I usually ask them to send me at least 5 jobs. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
specific enough to those types of jobs, but broad enough to where they can apply to different companies.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if a client says, I want to be a CFO and a CMO, I'd say, no, that's too broad. Try again. But they could say, okay, I want to be a CFO and a VP of finance, and sent me
Uh-huh.
different jobs. I'd then say, okay, let me target this for senior finance roles and write a resume around that to where,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you can
Mm-hmm.
apply to these 5 jobs you sent me or anything similar.
Yes.
And then really you're checking everything off on that job posting, because that's really the key of the resume. Is one goal is to get an interview. And oftentimes with these big companies, a recruiter is going through those thousands of resumes. They have a job posting they're trying to align your resume to and say, do you hit off what we're looking for? And that's what's going to get you an interview or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, if they're going through 10,000 CVs, something needs to catch their attention in like first few seconds, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is it usually?
One of the things is, are you qualified for this role? It's really simple, but are you qualified for the role? Do you match everything in the job posting? And then number two is, what sets you apart from everyone else? Have you worked for big companies? Do you have an amazing testimonial? Really, what is it that's a little different and unique about you? Did you go to an amazing school? And for each client, it's different. And that's actually something I asked during that initial coaching session. I asked them
Mm-hmm.
that specific question or a variation of it. I say, okay, I have 10,000 people applying for this company. What sets you apart from the other 10,000 people? And they say, oh, I don't know. I'm like, remember my rule. And then usually we come back to this question at the end because it takes them a while to noodle
Uh-huh.
on it. And then I'll pull it out of them and they say, oh, I was in the Army. I'm like, okay, now we're down to 100. So the other 9,900 applicants were in the Army. But 100 were. What sets you apart from the other 100 people in the Army? And we just keep whittling it down till we find something that only
Mm-hmm.
applies to them and no one else, which
Mm-hmm.
is really fun to do with clients. And once they uncover that, it helps not with just their resume, but it helps with their confidence when they go through their job search to say, wow, out of 10,000 people applying to Facebook or Google or Amazon, I'm the only one that's been in the Army,
Hmm.
that has a PhD, that speaks 4 languages, whatever it may be. It's really fun to help people uncover what's unique about them.
It's sort of like boils down to my question, what I want to ask, because you go through a lot of job descriptions and so on. Do you think it is a trend that companies are starting to look for real life experience rather than education and all these MBAs?
Yes, I know quite a few companies are moving toward getting rid of these educational requirements and not requiring
What are
degrees,
the
at least
metrics
for
then?
what?
What are the metrics then, based on like what are metrics they will use to hire the right person?
A lot of companies are going towards years of experience or specific skills that they're
Hmm.
requiring
Hmm.
instead in these job postings. But it's so difficult to figure out because when I think of it, I was just talking to my mom about this. She's in human resources. And what is a year of experience? If you work for a year at Facebook, that's different than working for a year at another company. So,
Hmm.
what is a year of experience and how
Mm.
do we measure the success of people? But going back to your original question, I think really a lot of these companies are moving away from education. We're seeing this with a lot of these Fortune 100, Fortune
Hmm.
500 tech companies saying we no longer have this blanket requirement of requiring a bachelor's. And I really appreciate that from a diversity and inclusion perspective and an equity perspective, because really we're leaving out so many people because education is so expensive. So I appreciate that we're not
Mm.
just requiring this for every position, especially when it's not necessary for so many.
Hmm. Hmm. Interesting. Um, I think you already have like thousands of clients, right? But I want to hear what is the like biggest success story you're the most proud of.
Usually the ones I'm most proud of, I can think of a few, are clients where the job had a huge impact on their life, where it was really critical that they got a job. Um, I can think of at least like 2 or 3, one from this year, who if they didn't get a job, their visa was going to expire and they would have to go to their home country.
Hmm.
So those are the most exciting ones because it has to
Hmm.
do with them and their family getting to stay in the US. So that's the most exciting work for me, is being able to do that ripple effect and realizing because I
Hmm.
help someone get a job, they're able to stay in this country and live out their dream. And they call it the American dream. That's their word. So it's so exciting for me to be able to help people achieve
Hmm.
that. The other really exciting stories are when I help really high up C-suite people at these tech companies and recognizing, okay, I helped someone land a job at Facebook in an executive role. Facebook has 2 billion plus users. So even though I'm not doing that work every day, I'm having indirect impact on the lives of 2 billion people, and that's
Wow.
really
Yeah.
exciting. So I think those two are the most fun. One, when it's a really individual level and impacting their lives.
Hmm.
And then on the flip side, when people land in executive roles at these companies and I'm helping them as well.
Hmm. I was actually expecting only answers like the second one, but it's actually, yeah, it's a good that there's even that big of an impact on an individual you can have, like that they can stay living their American dream.
It's amazing. It's so amazing. I don't think people realize that it's not just a resume or LinkedIn like I shared. It's really people's lives at the end of the day that
Yes.
I get to play a part in.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I have a question about if you already helped a person who's been an entrepreneur and decided to land a job in some big company such as Facebook or
Mm-hmm.
in any company, right? I would like to know like how this transition usually goes, because entrepreneurs, they love freedom, and if they go to the company, well, it's not that free anymore, right?
Yeah.
So have you already helped an entrepreneur to land a job?
Yes. Yeah. I've had quite a few entrepreneurs reach out, usually people who are high up in companies running successful companies who say, I want to leave this and go work for another company. And the biggest struggle they tend to have to overcome is not the freedom component, but the branding component. How do I let Facebook or Google or any of these companies know that I'm going to be okay working a 9 to 5 or maybe like an 8 to 8 when you really think about these big companies? But how am I going to brand myself as someone who can work in corporate America? And that's the biggest struggle. And I think the key really goes back to looking at that job posting and branding yourself based on that job posting and what they're looking for. But then the second piece, adding the whipped cream and the sprinkles or the caramel drizzle, whatever imagery you want to use, and recognizing that's also what sets you apart. So saying, I can do everything in your job posting and what you're looking for, plus some, But then what sets me apart is the fact that I ran these multi-million or multi-billion-dollar companies and grew them. And that's how I'm going to be an asset to your business, is because I'm
Right.
entrepreneurially minded and I have the grit to run these companies and work 60, 70, 80 hours a week.
So being an entrepreneur is actually that fabulous part that helps to land the
Yes,
jobs.
it can. And just the biggest hurdle is getting over that branding part and realizing as an entrepreneur, it may take a bit longer to land a job because some companies may just have a bias toward you and say, I'm a little worried. Even if you say you want to come work in corporate America, you may still not really want to, or this may just be a safety net, or there's a
Yes.
lot of things that go on in people's minds when they think of people coming back to corporate America. Like, was your business not successful? If it was successful, why are you wanting to come back? And those are valid questions that people just have to be ready to answer if they're going through the interview process.
I think if you're going to that high level position, it's not about that you want to take a rest from the business, right? It will be stressful. You will be working
Exactly.
maybe even more.
Exactly.
So let's get actionable a little bit here. So
Yeah.
if somebody is in the job is paying amazing, but they're not feeling fulfilled, something is missing. Why do people stay in these jobs? Why they're stuck? And if they're full of it, what are the steps they should take to change that situation?
One of the main reasons I find people stay in jobs that they don't like is that it's safe. The dissatisfaction or the anxiety associated with that job that they don't love is less anxiety provoking than the anxiety or the possible rejection or the difficultness or the energy and effort and time it takes to look for a job. So people say, I'd rather have the discomfort of a job I don't like than the discomfort and the really unknowingness that comes along with looking for a job. So that's, I find, the main reason people stay in a job is people are afraid of the unknown and they're afraid of the rejection. And a lot of times, almost every single client I work with, the problems come back to confidence. They lack the confidence to navigate the job search because it's so fraught with rejection. There's so much rejection
Yes.
that comes along with a job search. The only thing I can think of that has more rejection is dating. So besides dating, I think the only thing that really has this much rejection is the job search. And
or sales.
people are afraid of that. Or sales too, yes. Lots of rejection in sales. And then what was your second question? Sorry.
My second question is that if somebody is already recognized they are not happy, so how do they change it?
Yes. So the first question I think of, if you're not happy, see if it's really just the job. Because oftentimes people come to me and they think it's the job. And sometimes it is the job, but it may be something else. It may be communication issues with your boss that can be fixed. And really, before I dive into solutions for this, one of my favorite questions to ask is, what's the real problem here? One of my coaches has always asked me that. Her name's Kimberly Arago. And she always asks me that. What is the real problem here? So like I said, it could be communication problems with your boss. It could be something at home. It could be the commute. And see if there's an easy fix here, or maybe even not an easy fix, but see what that problem is. And then if you're truly not happy, then it might be time to look for a job. But I love asking clients that. What's the real problem here?
It's interesting. So this question, the reason for this question is most probably because people are not saying the real reasons, right? They're maybe saying the symptoms.
Exactly. Exactly. And it may not be the job. It may be something else. Or maybe they're not able to be creative at work. So is there an opportunity to be more creative at work that'll allow you to stay at your job? Because looking for a job is really a big deal. It's not little. We spend most of our waking hours at work. We spend more time with our coworkers than our family for most people, or our partners. So to change the job is pretty dramatic. So is there another option you can take besides changing jobs? And look at that. That's why I like asking what's the real problem, especially in this situation, because sometimes you can see if there's another solution besides just launching a full job search, which takes a lot of time and effort.
I think when people do that leap of faith and they already decide that they want to change job, what actually helped me when I was going through some of these difficult decisions is what's the worst that can happen, right? And usually it's not that bad.
Yeah.
That worst situation is not that bad.
Yes, and thankfully most of my clients are employed. Almost all my clients are employed when they reach out to me. So it's beautiful. It's the worst case scenario is you stay at your current job, which isn't that bad. And then the best case scenario is you get a better job or more salary or you're happier.
Mm-hmm.
So it can only go up from there, which is a really
Yes.
exciting place to be in, especially when you're employed.
Uh-huh. All right, but if somebody is not ready to take the step and do it themselves, well, they should hire a coach. So when do you think is the best time for people to hire a coach?
Yes,
Someone
I think
like you.
for hiring someone like me or any career coach, a lot of people really should consider, can I do this on my own and will I be best served doing this on my own? We hire other people for so many other things. We hire accountants, we hire barbers, we hire mechanics, we hire dentists, doctors. So really think, am I best served doing this on my own? And if I spend a few $1,000s and make it 10 or 20 or $50,000 more, would this be worth it? So really think, am I the best person to market, brand, and sell myself, or could someone else do it better? And also, is what got me here going to get me out of this? So I'm stuck here. I'm confused about what's going on. That's most of my clients. Am I also going to be able to get myself unstuck? And usually it's a no. So that's what usually ends up getting people talking to me, is they're just stuck. They're staying stuck on what they're doing isn't working and they want some help getting out of that process.
Yes.
And then I work with them to do that. I don't just say, here's what to do, but instead I help them uncover what's keeping them stuck and then create a plan with them to get them unstuck. Sometimes that's rebranding themselves. Other times it's figuring out, okay, what do you want to do for a living? And sometimes it's people staying in their current job and just making it a more enjoyable, fun job.
I like the analogy. I know if you were trying to make a change by yourself, it's almost like that you would try to lift yourself up by the hair in the air.
Yes. Yes,
Right?
exactly.
And it's sometimes better, of course, to hire a coach. Okay, Kyle, you are quite big on LinkedIn. How did you do it?
You know what? I think it was like my business. It was a lot by accident. And a lot of it was really doing things that were fabulous, as I would describe it, or doing things that were different. People weren't sharing about their personal lives. People weren't sharing, here's who I am as a human. So I started doing that. When it comes to social media, they say that you should tailor your approach differently to Facebook or Instagram or Twitter.
Okay.
And I tend to just share the same thing to each platform because I'm saying, this is who I am. So what happened was I was sharing really personable things on LinkedIn about who I am as a human. Sharing my partner, I'm gay. So I was sharing a picture of us at Pride kissing or different things. And people said, wow, this is radical or progressive or different. And like I was sharing earlier, I was putting some people in the hell no pile, but putting other people in the hell yes pile and saying, wow, I love this. So I think that's part of the reason I really had a lot of people reach out to me on LinkedIn to work with me and say, wow, I'm really loving what Kyle's putting out there. But I never intentionally said, wow, I'm going to go out there and just share all these things. It was really just me sharing who I am as a human and as a person. And then people related to it and said, wow, Kyle's a human. I'm a human. Let's connect.
So till this day, you don't have like any content plan or something, what you are about to post?
No, I post it as I have ideas. So I'm like, here's our life. We went wine tasting. Let me share that. Or, hey, we're going to Pride. Let me share that. Or, hey, I just had a call with a client and they shared they landed a new job. Let me share that. So it's really just being authentic, because that's my biggest value is authenticity. So it's really just sharing my life, my client success stories, and focusing on being honest.
I mean, authenticity, it takes courage. It's not easy to be authentic. Because people are scared that they will offend someone, but I mean, it's better to be, as we discussed, on hell yes or hell no side, rather than somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people aren't honest and they aren't authentic and they aren't vulnerable because it's scary. People are afraid of rejection. And then on the flip side, I think people are afraid that they'll be accepted. What if people like me like this and then I have to keep showing up as my full authentic self every day and take down the armor and let people in?
It's all about that people want to be accepted.
They do.
Yeah. Okay, Kyle, my last question. Let's talk about your two addictions, coffee and Disneyland.
Yes.
I actually don't have any question. Just tell me about it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So coffee, I've always liked coffee. I grew up in a coffee household. My parents love coffee. My grandparents love coffee. So even in like sixth grade, I remember walking to school and stopping at Safeway and getting coffee. I've always been working, so I had money to buy it. And then Disneyland, I've been going for the last year and a half. My partner, he had an annual pass. And then on my birthday, I bought one, surprised him. So we just love it. It's truly the happiest place on earth. It's so much fun. My word of the year for 2020 is fun. So I think it aligns perfectly. And I think the only thing I like more than coffee and Disneyland is like coffee at Disneyland. So I think that's my favorite thing. So yeah, I think they're just fun. And that's something I try and keep having more and more of is
Yes.
fun and injecting it. Because I'm running this business and that's something I'm really working on this year is I get to choose the clients I work with. I get to choose my speaking engagements. I
Oh,
get
that's
to
amazing.
choose how I
Yes.
spend my time. So I'm just trying to have more fun and spend as much time drinking coffee, having great clients, and going to Disneyland.
You mentioned that word for 2020 is fun.
Yes.
What were words for previous years?
So last year, the word was money. That was my big word for the year because I love traveling. So I wanted to travel more. That was the word. And then the previous 3 or 4 years, I think it was patience. That was something I was working
Mm,
on a lot, was to be more patient because I was
yes.
not a patient person. And now spending a lot of intention and time on that, I feel like I've really made a lot of progress on that. I
Hmm.
was able to move past that and now focus on money last year and fun this year.
Hmm. Kyle, thanks a lot. And last question, please. If people are ready to take the step and they don't like to pull themselves in the air by their own hair, and they need help by a coach, or maybe they want to discuss something with you, where they can find you? What is the best way of contacting you?
Yes, like you mentioned, I'm on LinkedIn a lot. So Kyle Elliott or my website, caffeinatedkyle.com is a beautiful way to find me.
Perfect. All right, Kyle. Thanks a lot for sharing all this amazing value. Is there anything else you would like to mention? Something exciting you're working on? You want to tell people about?
I really just want to encourage people to identify and own their fabulousness. I recognize it's scary to be rejected, but also recognize there's so much power once you're able to identify and own that and realize there's people out there that want to experience it and the world deserves to experience your fabulousness.
All right, Kyle. Thanks a lot again. And guys, if we brought you some values, if you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or maybe you're watching it on YouTube, please share it with your friends. You never know who might find value in there in our conversation. And till next time, and please be fabulous.